Hey there, Bob from Oregon, Wisconsin Gardener. Welcome to the OCG Fam Show. To you, my YouTube buddies, what's going on? Take two. Let me know in the comments. We'll talk about it. Speaking of the comments, that's what we're doing today. The viewer questions. Scott Ostrander, Nectar for the Gods. Big kahuna. First one is from Carla Renee, and she says, week 4, day 28, in flower, no buds. Not good. Please let me know what I might be doing wrong. And now I'm just going to, she goes a lot into what light she's got and all that sort of thing, what nutrients she's using, and that she is using a green bulb in there. What's the green bulb? You can't, it doesn't see it 24/7. So, do you want me to go through the whole thing, or it's a flowering problem? It seems like often that is probably light related, right? I mean,
it's got it. I mean, very, very rarely will there be a nutrient causing the lack of flowering. I mean, you'll still see flowering, you'll still see sexing, you'll see, I mean, the plant is naturally going to do something because the photoperiod has changed and it has to go into reproductive cycle. So, to me, I mean, the first thing I would do is turn off my green bulb and make sure it's not my green bulb. Because a lot of green bulbs, if you're using a painted green bulb and it gets one scratch on it, it's not a monochromatic green bulb that the plants can't read. It's just a green painted bulb that possibly is still sending out some type of lumen that the plants are accepting.
So if it were the nutrients, it might be doing it poorly.
I mean, you might grow bad buds,
but you would not grow nuts. So what are some issues that you could have at the green bulb? Maybe there's a little scratch or something like that.
Well, make sure the green bulb's a true plant green bulb. Even the green bulb people will tell you that even 24 hours on, there could still be a disturbance of light for the plants or photoperiod. So it's not necessarily recommended. I have a green light in my room just in case I need to get in there for an off cycle time.
When you, well, you go turn it on when you come in as you're going in there.
So I put a switch external so I can kind of go in, turn it on, and then when I'm leaving, I turn it off, make sure my lights are all off. Now, we've run into problems with customers that have had no flowering at week 4, week 5, week 6. We go to their space and we come during the night cycle and say, "Oh, your timer has failed." And it's weird. I mean, one timer could fail and half the room could be lit up while the other half is showing it's off.
Well, I had one. Someone had flicked, maybe it was probably me, flicked the little thing to on from the timer thing, and I was growing peppers, so it wasn't so crucial. But it went for days like that before I realized because I wasn't in there.
Growing and they're not putting on fruit, and that's. I mean, I would definitely, I would do the next couple of days, go in there and check the light cycle in the middle of the night, your night cycle, make sure your lights are turning off, make sure your timer's functioning, and I would turn off the green bulb just to make sure it's not the green bulb.
Okay.
It's really rare, though, that soil would do it, nutrients would do it. Anything shy of a photoperiod, plants are responding to the photoperiod, not the NPK.
Okay.
So it's a tough one. I really want to help you get to the bottom of this. Everybody I've worked with, there's something going on with the light cycle.
So light leak in the tent or the room, the timer's messed up, the light's messed up, the green bulb's got something. Something's going on with the light, almost certainly. And that's where you would...
Yeah. I mean, I want to say almost certainly. There's no telling until you discover, but I can tell you Gaia Mania isn't keeping your plants from flowering.
Okay. Snake Plissken! Hi, Bob. Love your show. Your show. My show.
Your show.
He probably loves you too. But it's more our show. It's really our show. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna keep moving. Thought you do a pretty good. Love your show. Thought you do a pretty good job. My next question is: my ppm in my Pro Mix soil is currently at 160 plus 6.5 pH. Just turned the lights to 1212. My ladies seem to be starving. I keep throwing more and more at them. The high side of the chart using Gaia, Medusa, Aphrodite's, Athena's, Mega one day, and Demeter's, Persephone's, some Hygeia occasionally, mixed Triton's SLF. Trying to break the Roman regimen up into 2 feet. So he's doing his regular Spartan thing, but then he's doing the Roman stuff, but he's doing it on different days. Yeah. Okay. Along with the Photo, Nourish, and some SLF 100, Cultured Biologics, and some worm castings on my tea days. I haven't flushed it all because I haven't seen the need to yet.
You don't need to flush.
Plants are very happy, some clawing a couple of hours after feeding, but all praying by the end of the day. Should my soil be between 3 and 500 ppm, I can't get it up. They just eat everything. 6 weeks or so of veg, and anywhere from 600 to 12 to 1400 ppm feeds, And the very next day, the soil is at 150 to 180.
Wow,
Thanks
hungry.
again. Edit using Bloom Chaos at half strength twice a week. Only use maybe 4 times. Gonna switch to soil drench within a week.
Hold off. Let's get your nutrition up. And that's what's happening with your slight clawing is the couple times a week at 140 is telling me that there's just...
It's not in there for the...
They're eating it. I'd love to see a picture of those. thebeard@organsonly.com. What I'd like to see is a picture of what they're looking like, what size container they're in, frequency of water / feed. I know he's feeding regularly. He's alternating back and forth. Everything sounds like you're doing it just right, no question. I think the sunshine comes pretty neutral right out of the gate. I mean, that's a very neutral soil potting mix. It's basically limestone and peat moss, and perlite. So it may be worth tossing a small charge of one shot, something to get those ppms as a backup internally in the root zone.
Okay.
Just scratching it in, or an all-purpose fertilizer of some form in a dry, just to get that secondary backup food in there. You definitely have eating girls that are just
hungry.
Everything you're giving them.
Okay.
So I wouldn't write this off yet. I would definitely back off. I wouldn't do the soil drench yet on Chaos until we can get those ppms up a little bit. Or if you do start soil drenching, just make sure you're adding another 15 to 30 mils of Herculean to balance those needs. Start at half strength as a soil drench before you don't go full in. At those numbers, they're eating everything you're giving them. So it might be time to even bump them up to mid-flowering stage.
So, and you still wouldn't flush? Or would you flush?
He doesn't. There's nothing to flush. No, like you said, plants look great, pH is great, and parts per million are down. You flush, the parts per million go further down, pH still looks great, and the plants now are more hungry. Okay. So you don't need to flush. I wouldn't flush at those numbers because everything's perfect.
Okay.
The only reason why I would flush would be do like 2 to 3 tablespoons of Herc, and I'm not flushing right now. I'm feeding them.
I got you. Well, that's what I was kind of thinking is that, but this the doing a bunch of Herc can fix other problems besides lockup, things like that,
yeah,
right?
and it can actually build up your nutrition again. So I mean, if I get really low like that, I'd focus on bumping the most gentle things like Herculean, Gaia, Aphrodite's, Athena, something to kind of create these ppms in the mix. Those all help kind of build that up. So
when we're doing this Roman regimen with all these things we're adding,
real quick though, he's doing half a Roman regimen with every feed. And not that right or wrong, I'm just saying, if he was given the Roman regimen every single feed, those parts per million wouldn't be 160. They'd probably be in like the 400 to 500.
So that would be coming up.
It'd be building up.
Okay.
But he's alternating, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
A lot of farmers do it that way. But it might be one of those where it's like maybe for the next week, feed that same recipe all together, 2 to 3 times a week for a couple weeks and see what your buildup gets.
So if I was in this situation where I was doing my regular plus some Roman back and forth, and I realized that they're hungry and they need more food, I want to give them more food, would you focus more on the basics at the expense of the Roman, or do the whole thing more, or personal preference, or see what the plant's like?
I would keep the basics in every feeding, and I'd use the Roman stuff every other feeding.
Okay.
So it'd be like all Roman, just basics, all Roman, just basics, until I got my parts per million back up. Okay. And I'd be gauging the plants. If they looked like they were potassium hungry, I'd be bumping the things with potassium up. If they looked like they're phosphorus hungry, or I was in the stage where they needed to produce more flour, I'd be bumping up the Herc or the Tritons or something in that realm.
Would I be exploring with foliar feeding, or just looking at what I see from the plants?
You're at that stage where he's probably just setting for. You can, but it's not desired. And so,
because you'd be like just spraying this little leaf. Better to rely on the experience of others as far as what the plant should look like, and asking questions.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would come at you right off the bat. Why aren't you feeding the Roman the whole way through? And I'm with you. The back and forth I think is great. I think, however, in the off days of your basic, your Gaia, your Medusa, your Zeus, and your Herc, I'd make sure Herc's in everything. And I'd make sure like either Medusa or Gaia is in with that extra, because you're still giving them that extra menu or that extra load of food that could probably start building up those parts per million.
So I guess what you're saying is that if I'm doing my Roman every other day, that I could either A, do my Roman every day, or B, bump up my Herc and Gaia and stuff like that on my not Roman day. Those would possibly have the same effect.
Yeah, we're adding those to the Roman day.
Oh, so
I mean, because he's taking the basic or the Roman, and he's going back and forth. They are going back and forth.
But so when you're saying that when he's doing his Roman day, he's still not doing there. You would do the Roman regimen, Herc, Gaia, all that stuff, plus all the extras on that day, and then on your other day do the Spartan. But you would still do the Herc and the Gaia and the Medusa.
I would
every day, at least until you get this sorted out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Outside of that, I mean, I'd love to see a picture because I can imagine they probably are pretty happy looking. But those numbers look great. The 160 is, I would not put Chaos in the red zone until we get that 160 into the 300 mark.
Does it ever get to 0?
Sorta?
Is that possible?
I mean,
not really. No.
There'll always be some kind of ionic charge in there, but our cocoa gets below 50.
So, but when you see numbers like 100 and something like that, is that really
a lot of times
kind
it's
of
just
0?
what their water is?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying is that you might be at 0 and not, if it's that low.
They're starving.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be yellow and they should be eating the bottom leaves and the new leaves should be lime. I mean, it should just look stressful.
But if they are happy at that, that's probably not the case. So that number is not an absolute number. But if you see a happy plant at a low number, they're eating, they need more.
Well, and what he's saying, I mean, he's feeding them regularly at 12 to 1,400 parts per million. The next day it's at 150. Yeah, they love what you're giving them so much that they'd like more.
Okay.
And I think that's when I start bumping to see, okay, it sucks because you can find out that these plants can eat a lot of food, and then you're like, oh, it's going to, water me out of house and home.
Yeah.
But it gives you a sense of, okay, how to push these plants. I don't want to run this genetic again because to make them happy, I got to run 2,200 parts per million of bone meal. That's insane. There's no return on the cost there. But on a different genetic, that 1,400 may be its top echelon mid-flower. I'm pushing the heck out of them feed. And being left behind with 400. I'd also like to know what soil they're in, or if they're in a soilless medium with that. Because it kind of sounds like there's... Oh, did he say Sunshine 4? He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Sunshine 4 alone just doesn't have the backup nutrition. So, a lot of times, like in the number 4, it's hard to get it down that low because it doesn't have that low of a charge. In a Sunshine mix, nothing wrong with it, but they don't have a backup food, so putting a one-shot type of food into that mix would definitely help, keep your parts per million up higher, so it allows you to push them a little bit more with the Chaos.
So if you were a number 4 and you did have a super hungry plant, would you still be looking at one shot as a way of supplementing?
If you got down to 150, that means you vegged for a really long time and there's no nutrition left. But the nutrition in number 4, I mean, there's some backup. You'll always be like 1 to 400.
Just there.
Yeah, just by nature. So... yeah.
Okay.
Send me a picture.
Minmo Grow Show. My question is, I didn't have enough calcium even though I was using full Roman. Will my plant recover? Does the taco ever go away? Will my plant be okay? I was in mid-flower and did the soil drench. I stopped the BK and up the Herc to 90 milliliters a gallon. It was really just one plant that reacted that way. So everything else, I suppose, was happy. And this is the one. He says, is she doomed? I doubt she will get new leaves. So... Well,
the nice thing is that...
Yeah, it's just one, but still.
Well, it's one.
Nothing.
Well, no, but I mean, if it's green, it's still doing its job. It's collecting... I mean, it's still photosynthetic reacting. It's got chlorophyll. It's doing its thing. I mean, you got the misshapen. The flowers are still going to produce the same as they always have. Even if you correct it and get all the calcium you need in there, tacoing leaves aren't the demise of the plant.
They're a sign that something was wrong. You may fix what's wrong, but still they're not going to get fixed. Yeah. So the plant's okay, just doesn't look okay.
The downfall of calcium is it's immobile, so it doesn't move around in the plant. So once the cells are formed in that way and it holds and kind of cements in, they're that way.
Okay.
If you catch it here and you hit them really hard within 24 hours, a lot of times they will correct. But once cells are damaged, they're damaged. It shouldn't affect your flowering at all. It should not affect your flavor or your terpenes or any of the product. It just will make that plant look a little odd until the end.
So was he on the right track with stopping the BK and up in the Herc?
I mean, that's what I do when I see, but why one plant out of all of them? Are they all the same? See, this is where I wish I could ask 1,000 questions because how many genetics you run? What size container? What's the potting soil you're in? How cold was the water when you watered them that day? Did you have a power outage or a freeze? Is Saturn in retrograde? Don't care. But the rest of those would be, questions I'd like to know just so we can now discover what happened to that one and not the whole garden. Because when I get one plant that does one-off thing and everything else is the same, It's either a genetic problem, it's a strain problem, it's a root-borne problem. I mean, there's something going on that isolated 1 from 20.
So there's possibly an opportunity there by something that is different, or certainly an opportunity to see something that went wrong that may affect everything later.
So now we can catch something before it happens somewhere else because the weakest one's showing us or expressing an issue that may come down the road. So to me, answering the slurry question first and foremost, then the root size. I mean, I've got a guy right now who's got plants that are praying beautifully, but they're in little 3-gallon pots and they're literally cannibalizing themselves. And it's all the new growth, all the top growth is praying, everything's happy, but everything below is just being consumed, and you can't figure out why. Well, there's absolutely no soil. He's feeding them every day, every other day, so they're literally just consuming themselves at that point. So we don't know the whole story on the one, but. No, it won't fix. Once the cells are there, that's what they are. But the flower should not have any malformation, and you should maintain your normal everything with the flowering.
Now, the one thing I want to ask, does he stay with this 90 milliliters of Herc when he's not even doing any BK? I mean, he did that to kind of get some calcium back. You'd keep just going strong with that.
Well, if you're mid-flowering, I mean, he sure could. I mean, you know.
Because it's eating it.
Snake would take that and be happy with 90 and actually probably laugh at you with 90 and say, where's the other 90? Because, it just comes down to your plant. And how, again, if you're in a 1-gallon pot, 90 might be too much. Because that's a very concentrated load for a very small earth.
Well, that's what I'm saying is if you were having some calcium deficiency, but you backed off the BK, and now you're giving it tons of calcium, but what's going to happen to that if it can't?
Nothing.
Nothing. It's just going to go down the bottom of it.
More. Yeah.
So it's not going to overeat that, or you may waste some, but you certainly can't go wrong.
3 tablespoons is not
a ton.
No.
Yeah.
No, actually, that's 6 tablespoons.
6 tablespoons. Yeah. I was thinking that same thing in my head, and that's why I didn't say it in tablespoons.
Yeah,
because I thought 3 ounces was going to be off. Okay, bill me later. You probably hear that a lot at the store when you're back in your store days.
No, can you bill me later? What's the question?
No. You haven't filled out the credit out. You just
we didn't miss this one.
Midmo Grow Show. Did he do 2? Oh no. Okay, hold on a second.
See, you're here.
All right, we'll see. The Midmo Grow Show is what messed me up.
Oh, gotcha.
Big CMCG. Can one effectively run this line with ProMix HP? You guys,
except for the first guy we talked about, he's running HP.
Other than him, everyone else is like. You guys seem to have a negative opinion of ProMix. No, it's not organic stamp, but select. It's an organic stamp. Christ on a cross.
Yeah. We actually respect them for not. So,
but selection here is extremely thin. Thanks. Can you run ProMix? What's HP? What's that? High performance.
Maybe. No, I want to say it's like something powder or
But it's ProMix. They have a line of soils, right? Just
a huge. Yeah. Well, and so with ProMix, it's a peat-based soil.
Yeah.
Peat-based perlite, pumice, limestone. I mean, we've in the past bought their peat moss. So I mean, there's nothing. We're not anti-ProMix by any means. A lot of people use our line in ProMix. It works just fine. I personally like to cut a little cocoa fiber in something like that, so I get that crossover. So get a brick of cocoa and blend it in with your peat moss. Your ProMix, it'll make your ProMix go a lot further, and it'll add in more tilt into your soil for the microbes. But by itself, like the guy above you, and we just answered his question, he's running ProMix with the same thing and having very little problems other than he can't keep them fed enough.
Well, let's just you made the Nectar soil because people had problems with the soil, not because the soil was bad.
There's other brands.
Yeah, but some soil is certainly bad, but other soil is just not well intended to what your system is or what you're doing. And she made that. But if you're not running the Nectar soil, even if you are running possibly, it seems like you need to be kind of a student of how to modify your soil. What's the baseline of that? How do you think about making your soil work?
To me, I like to have that extra food charge in there, or something in there that's going to balance the food that I'm not giving my plants through a bottle.
And you would say that's one shot?
The one shot definitely
Yeah,
is a big. I mean, we put a lot more stuff in the number 4 than just one shot.
Sure,
but
yeah.
at the end of the day, one shot would get those, so you had a reserve, so the plants would never go into a weird starvation mode.
And then be doing some microbials, Photo Plus or Teas or things like that to keep things working.
Yep, and then with those, the one thing with right now, what we're hearing with ProMix and Sun4 and these peat-based baled mediums is. The limestone that they add to them are frozen, so it's not activated. So we're getting a lot of people with issues with very acidic ProMix and very acidic Sunshine mix.
Okay.
And it's only because peat moss is acidic. I mean, it's, when we get it from SunGrow, or when we used to get it from Premier Peat, which is SunGrow. No, Premier Peat. Anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
A bale of that's coming in at roughly 4.3 pH. 4.3. So you got to limestone the crap out of that to get it into the 6s to make it neutral. Well, if the limestone goes in super cold and frozen, and the peat is super cold and frozen because it's been stored in Alaska or up in Canada, they're not activated. So when you first plant in it, you're reading the slurry of the peat itself and not the activated limestone. And so a lot of people are running into issues in the colder months that they're just check the slurry and make sure that you're starting off with a pH that's doable. Other than that, peat moss is just a absolutely fine medium to grow in. And
so it seems like that there's the issues of the pH and the ppm. There's
mostly pH with ProMix because they don't put ppm in it.
Well, and but some soils with bark and things like that where that number drifts because it starts breaking down, right?
Well, same with peat. It'll drift lower.
Okay.
Because the more it breaks down, the more acids it releases.
So you fix these issues with flushing, right? Is that, I mean...
Flushing, or in these cases, like I have a customer who's in a lot of trouble on the East Coast because it cannot come up. No matter how much Olympus Up we add at 7.4 flushes, he's at 5.2. And that's brutal when you're a nectar grower trying to feed at 7.
Yeah.
Because even if we're trying to do corrective, 7's too high for all the nutrition to get in there, even as an absorbing.
It can't work at all.
No, it's like you're at 5 and 7. That 6 range isn't even being met. We're trying to buffer it. So for him, we actually had to mail him out some Microna limestone powdered to just water it in to help buffer that pH with actual physical limestone rather than the digested limestone on Olympus. If you're in a region where it's like warmer, or you got the soil's been sitting in the sun yard for a week, you're fine. I mean, ProMix will do totally fine. I like to just know what my pH and parts per million are to start with, so you don't run into a surprise. Why are they starving at 100 parts per million? Well, probably because your soil starts off at about 150 parts per million. So just knowing your starting range, there's nothing wrong with ProMix at all. A lot of people use it, like I said. It wouldn't hurt to throw a little food charge in there, but at the end of the day, you're going to probably need to feed them a lot during bloom just to keep them really happy.
Okay. Are there, why would you ever need to add perlite or pumice or something like that for drainage and those kinds of things? Or
that's all personal.
That's all personal and not specific to nectar over any other kind of fertilizer. Okay.
No. If we made a soil for every single person for their drainage needs, we'd have like 350 different soils. The same blend, it's just that many different ratios of perlite.
So if you're having drainage issues, is that the first place you'd go?
Adding drainage?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, how would you do that after the fact, though?
You don't. You just know that, okay, next time if I'm using this medium, I want to add 30 more %.
I got you. So you just get a feel for
trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a first-time grower and you didn't get good drainage, then next time buy soil that has more drainage. But don't try to correct, unless you transplant up.
Yeah.
Hopefully you know. If you're in a 2-gallon pot and you're going to finish in a 10 and it's not draining well because the medium's too dense, then don't plant it in more of that dense medium. Go out and buy one, or get the same medium, put 50% perlite into it to air it out so you can feed it more.
Would you err on the side of more drainage? Give it a choice.
Again, personal preference, but I'm lazy now. So back 20 years ago, I want to feed every day, sometimes twice in the flowering stuff. I want to push. Yeah. Now I'm like, God, I hope they're not needing feed today because that's going to be a lot of work at Tuesday. So
I got you.
Ideally, it just comes down to your preference, what you're doing, your style, how fast you want to grow, how much you want to get.
All right. See, we're rolling along here. We got some good questions.
Wait.
We do. This is going great. Midville Grow Show's back again. Question for the big beard. Second grow is up and running. but having mag deficiency. Epsom salts, that's a funny word, Epsom. Epsom salt.
Well, you're a graphic designer, so you want to say Epsom.
Yeah, I don't.
Printer.
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it?
I want to say printer. I say it all the time when I type in it. I always think Epsom. No, Epsom.
It fixed. We've lost the trail here. I'm going to start over.
You've lost the trail.
Question for the big beard. Second grow is up and running, having mag deficiency. Epsom salts fixed it, but both grows now have mag def. I use distilled water. What is the best product to use to stop that from happening? Should I just add 5 milliliters Epsom salts or every other week? Add Mag-Amp to my regimen? Something else is in our own line, maybe.
I mean, Medusa has the mag in our line, so if you wanted a mag, there's our Medusa. Would be able to offer some. It's not a ton. Demeters will help if you're in the... Because did he say what soil he's in up top?
That's the thing, is
so if I had your soil, then I'd be able to tell you what's in your soil that we can somehow release through either calcium through Demeters or what?
So I just want to... When you're using Nectar soil,
trying to put it back.
When you're using Nectar soil, the Demeter is an effective way of getting calcium into there. But if you're in some other soils, it may not be. It's not a cure-all for the situation.
No, because soil structure and soil physiology and chemistry is all going to be different from mix to mix. If it's heavy bark, heavy this, heavy that, whatever.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what the soil is here, and then also I'd like to know the genetics here, because it sounds like he's running a pretty mag-hungry plant. Because if it continues, then it's the genetics that want more. Not that there's anything wrong with the genetics.
There's not even wrong.
It's just some genetics require more magnesium. Now, personally, for ease, Mag-Amp is a great thing to add. You can add it 1 to 2 mils, up to 5 mils every single watering, and totally avoid the issues. Top dressing with 1 to 2 teaspoons of Epsom salt to have it wash through every time you feed and water. 5 mils per gallon solubilized and watered in would work, because that's basically what you're doing with Mag-Amp. It's just the convenience factor there.
Yeah.
And they have micronutrients, blah, blah, blah. Or running full on as a magnesium supplement and a trace mineral supplement that will kind of help with that.
So the distilled water, I mean, let me ask you this. Could this be a situation, I'm sure he's right that it's a mag deficiency, but if you're using distilled water, that you could have other micronutrients that would manifest as that kind of situation?
It can. Well, and it can also antagonize other things in the soil, being, stealing the ions off of other elements. I mean, it could literally be neutralizing some things that may or may not be able to get into the plant, because distilled water isn't necessarily the best.
So if you were running distilled water, you'd probably be running some full-on or something similar to that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And always Demeters or Herculean in the water. Always a calcium source, and always, I do full-on so you get the trace mineral on every single one, because you've got to rebuild your water structure. That's, again, another tough one. I'd love to know the potting soil, because if it was a potting soil that I knew had an element in there that's robbing us of these other elements just through chemistry, then we could at least say, well, first thing we want to do is tie up this by watering that. And then from then on out, we'll just work with this angle.
But not knowing if you're a little green or whatever, it's a safer bet to get some Mag-Amp in there that's going to probably work.
It's just a nice and easy and proven.
Simple.
Epsom salt will do the same thing. If that's what you already have, then I would definitely use up the bag first of that.
Okay.
But let's discover what's going on in the soil, and email.
It would be nice to work on that. Okay. So that full-on's not cheap. How much are you using? Not a lot for this particular purpose, right? I mean like a mil or two or...
1 to 2 mils.
So you get the smallest full-on, and just that's going to last you a long time if you're just using it. You're not pushing hard on it. You're just using it to fix your water.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and you won't be disappointed in the remineralization that it's always happening, because a lot of these peat moss-based soils don't have any minerals in them. And plants love minerals, so if you don't have the minerals for them, they're not going to eat it.
Yeah. Okay. Bill me later. We're back to that. Please throw me a bone here. All right. I'm on the Greek regimen. My water leaves the tap at pH of 6.2. When I add my nutrients and test my water with 2 different pens, I come up with... you can have 100 different pens.
It's still going to be low.
Yeah.
No matter what. As low as low.
So, but Well, we'll talk about the pen thing in a minute. I come up with 5.5. So he was at 6.2. He's at 5.5. My soil slurry is 6.8 with tap water on 4-gallon water batches. This is an insane amount of up. Is that
Well, the hard part here is you start off with 6.2, so your water's already acidic.
Yeah.
And then you're adding Herculean at any rate is going to drop that because you're starting if you're at starting point at 7.0, you would still not even be, below 6 at this same rate. And the downfall is, yes, this is totally normal when your starting point of water is 6.2. In Oregon, our starting is anywhere from 7.1 to 8.2. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no.
So what I would do here to save money or time, well, that and then always, it's really not that big of a drop. 5.5 from 6.2, that's not bad. That's a half a point.
So a couple things come to my mind.
Shake the bottle, make sure it's very shook, like shook, and then when you think it's shook, then throw a rock in there and shake it some more because there's that bottom layer of limestone that could be settled. Although that's not that big of a drop.
Okay.
Really on that level, 6.2 to 5.5, because I'll put in at 7.2 and I'll add my 4 tablespoons and I'll be down almost to 6.059. That's a whole point. This is a half a point.
So I guess the issues here is that his pH is, if his plants are happy, his pH, his pens are probably correct.
I'm not worried about his pens. This is totally normal. Leave the pens aside. When you start at 6.2, you add in mid-veg food, it's going to drop to 5.5.
So if he's using a ton to get there, it could be an issue where it's not shook up or something's going on with the pH up situation. Up. Yeah.
Well, like guys that have really high pH water, I would recommend the same thing for him is to take your standard water on Monday. You're going to feed tomorrow, Tuesday. Take your standard 6.2 water, pH corrected to 7.0 with a Herculean.
Yeah.
Let it sit for 24 hours.
Okay.
Now it's in the water as like calcium carbonate. And then add your food to that, and then the reaction won't be adding acids to more acid.
Okay.
Instead, you increase your base, then bring your acids in, and then you'll need less base to get it back to normal, where we're feeding more acid, and then trying to correct it with a base.
Okay.
And so I think let's react that acid to base right off the bat, because what's happening here is there's something in here that's an acid.
Right, okay.
And it's probably iron. I bet you probably have iron in there.
Yeah.
The iron's going to tie up calcium and phosphate. They like to do that. So let's tie that iron up before we put in the Herculean and stuff. Get that up to 7.0, then add in our nutrition and drop it back down. Because now the up is only fighting the water, which will have way less impurities than putting in a bunch of Herculean, which is all impurities.
I got it. Okay, sure.
I would try that first. It might save you at least 25 to 30%, if not half, of your Olympus Up use. That and then just, again, shake the crap out of those bottles, because if you have a gallon, it could be that much on the bottom.
It's a rock.
It's
a gooey rock.
It's micronized rock, so it's definitely a paste in the bottom.
So, and the stainless steel nuts inside there, that's a good thing to do?
It wouldn't hurt, but it's a kind of a pain in the Olympus, because it is limestone powder.
It's still just whacking up against the bottom of that thing.
The rock pad.
Do you think holding the bottle upside down helps? Or it's just at the top instead of the bottom now? It just seems like it's
compaction.
Yeah.
You mean as far as storing them on?
Yeah.
What I found a lot of people do with Olympus Up is they lay it on the flat side of the gallon, like this.
Okay.
Not like this, not upside down.
So it's more
flat, so you got the surface area this thick
and
that wide, so when they flip it, it just shatters and then they shake it. Where if you concentrate it in this little tiny brick, it's a little tiny brick.
Yeah.
So as a trick, instead of this is your gallon, lay your gallons on the side, and then you created a larger surface area to shake.
It's a great idea.
No, I just thought of it.
That's awesome.
Somebody taught me that years ago, and I just forget that. It's such an awesome trick.
Okay, here we go. Tony Olivia.
Tony, we're just going to get back to you on this one. We're not even going to read the whole question because he's having issues with... He gets his parts per million up to 1,000, then adds the Olympus, and it drops it down by 40%. And
inexplicable.
I could see it dropping a little, like 5%, going from 1,000 to 950. But so we're gonna.
So do you need more information from him, or we just need to play around with it?
Well, I want him to email us.
Okay.
So we can get an email chain and thread going, so we can ask 100 questions back and forth. We want to get to the bottom of this because he wants to. everything he wants to do here is I want to push them harder. I just can't seem to push them harder.
Yeah.
And before we go all deep into the whole paragraph in the question, we've acknowledged your question.
Yeah.
We are showing concern. I mean, we're not concerned. We're intrigued, and now we're going to try to replicate that in 4 different gardens in the next few days. So if you are watching the show, Tony, feel free to just send us an email real quick saying, hey, Tony here, just, let's start a dialogue. Okay. Let's get some, and then we'll review it after we get to the bottom of it all. But, we're not sloughing you off. We want to make sure we are coming at this. It just isn't something that happens very often. Very rarely do you add parts per million and have it go down. So it's really kind of a shocker. Yeah. But we're going to try to replicate this, and we're going to get back to you. But if you email us, we'll start an open dialogue, ask a bunch of questions, and we'll come back and review it later.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's that. Sorry, Tony. Love to get into it, but there's no answer for this yet. It's odd.
Unusual.
You must live on a mystery spot vein of paramagnetic material. It's the only thing I can think of. You live in Canada on a roadside attraction where water goes uphill, then that's what's happening.
Let's move on.
Mystery spot. Have you never been?
I've never. No, I went to the Trees of Mystery.
No,
you ever been there? That's awesome.
The one where you drive the gondola ride up through the deep forested hill and go, look, a tree.
No, they have
That's
a whole other.
Now.
They don't. What happened to all the little place where you walk around with the trees? With the
you were probably 9 when you did that, and that was super cool.
No, I was just a couple years ago. Every time I go
just check through every time, and just like
yes, I don't even go I-5 because I got to go by the Trees of Mystery. They got the candelabra tree.
Literally, they have a room where you stand on one side and you're taller than the short people.
That's the polar vortex.
Well, and they also call them mystery spots.
Yes.
And
I'm talking about the Trees of Mystery.
I've been to the Trees of Mystery. I
With
drive by it on 101.
Yeah. And Paul Bunyan. Get off my boob.
It looks beautiful from the road, but you get in the gondola and you literally are going through a clear cut.
Well, yeah, I don't the gondola, but I go to they got to walk through forest with mysterious trees.
They're just big ass trees.
I don't care.
Someday they'll be mysterious.
They have there's one where they're like all wrapped. We've lost the trail again. Roast beef. Here's a question for Scott.
This is the last question for Scott.
He says, when amend number. If you see, I think he texted this because when you amend number for soil, is there
amending?
Yeah. Okay. Is there a time where you've got to add cocoa back in? So like we've done this several times. Is there some point where you got to put some more cocoa in there finally?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It
just comes down to you and what you like. I mean, every round I always add a little bit more cocoa because I like the structure of it.
So what does the cocoa bring to the table as far as
structure? It's soil structure, and without it, it's perlite and pumice.
And the perlite and the pumice stay forever. The cocoa slowly, minutely.
The cocoa will be eaten by microbes by design. Peat moss gets eaten. Compost and humus and bark and all that's all food for microbes. That's earth.
All right. So at some point, there would just be perlite and pumice in there.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sandy loam.
Yep. So you do a little bit even the first time around? Or?
I just like the structure. I mean, personally, what I do is I take all the old soil and I put that in the pot.
Yeah.
At about 70% of the pot.
Yeah.
So if I'm in 10 gallons, I put 7 gallons in. Then I take my 3 gallons of fresh and my transplant and I put it on the top.
Okay.
And then I recycle that whole thing, turn it all up, and then the top is always 30% brand new and the bottom 70% used. I charge the 70%.
With the 30% as you're doing the... Smart motherfucker.
Beep. Now you're going to have to put a eyeball...
Oh, I got to put the thing. See, if I just said
language.
damn
if you
or
said you poopy pants Mo Frankie, then we'd be on a different page. Now we just went adulted on this.
No, I'll just silence out that part. It'll be my first edit ever. It's exciting.
Literally.
Ever. Yeah. There's stuff
ever.
There's stuff I should have edited out. I just didn't because... well, that's the show.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to throw a quick plug.
Yeah. Holy moly, let's do it. This is exciting. What do you got?
Well, we're going to do a little sponsor this year.
A sponsor?
Yeah. We don't sponsor many things. This is a local... Eugene. Well, it's going to be out in Veneta. And it's a private... I mean, you can join...
I think they call that Blue Jean.
Blue Jean?
Blue Jean. That's a euphemism
you
for Eugene.
green.
You green.
It's,
Right? Yeah.
anyway,
Keep going.
it's called.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, this one works better.
Yeah, that's
It's
nice. What kind of flower is that?
I don't know. Butterfly bush. So it's called the Bud Fest.
The Bud Fest.
Bud Fest in Eugene, Veneta, where it's going to be a bunch of Oregon farms submitting. It's a secret cup in a sense. It's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They have some music. They've got some competitions, some no sponsors in the realm of all we're doing is we're sponsoring the camp so people get free pancakes in the morning, and we're sponsoring an air-conditioned tent so that you can go lay down when you're high. But on that, it's all going to be fun.
I love to lay down when I'm high.
You don't get high. But all of our Nectar people out there, this is, they cap it at 2,000 people.
Okay, so you got to get in when the
You got to
getting's
get
good.
in when the getting's good. The sale, I mean, they'll go on, tickets will go on sale soon. It's on June 22nd out in Veneta, which is just across the field from the country fair.
Yeah.
Literally the country fair parking lot, in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. Out by the stump farm.
Yep, somewhere in there. But yeah, it's we're gonna sponsor OCG, and Nectar will be sponsoring a couple of the things just to help them. They're local guys. Actually, one of the guys, Sean Beeman, is his name. That's one of the properties it's on. He's a well-known Pacific Northwesterner who does amazing work for child cancer, child epilepsy. He does a lot of medicine for children on donation. He, out of the kindness of the man's heart, that he produces a lot of free medicine for people that can't afford it.
Cool.
So we're going to give back to that community, but it should be just a really fun weekend of just hanging out with a bunch of people bragging and showing off their wares. It's kind of cool. It's one of the few like non-ego shows. It's not a lot of flair. There's not a lot of chest puffing, but a lot of local Pacific Northwest communities getting together and just saying, hey, let's show our wares and enjoy each other for the weekend. So if you got time on June 22nd, check them out. It's Budfest, budfesteugene.com. Info at Budfest Eugene if you want to get in on a booth or show your wares from a farm, because they're still taking entries. I think it's $250 for an entry to get. They sent the winner to Hawaii last year.
Holy moly!
Last year there was only 500 people, and it was unspoken of. This year they're going to try to hit. Well, they only want 1,000. But they have to cap at 2,000. So I'm like, well, I bet you we can get 2,000 people there, and it should be fun. So we'll be there. We're thinking up some fun stuff to do. We might even have a secret side cup where Nectar grown, viewers' choice winners.
We've been talking about that for ages.
Well, and this would be a sense where we just have you send us a jar, we send them on our table, and it's all Nectar grown, and we show people what you guys do so that you can. And the winner might just win, I don't know, like $3,000, $4,000 worth of free fertilizer. I don't know. We're still figuring that out. But take a look at Budfest, enter in, and then we'll just keep reminding you guys, because I'd love to talk to people about their own products. What's that?
That's the show. The OCG Fam Show.